You're not starting over because you're lazy. You're not starting over because you lack discipline. You're starting over because something keeps resetting you, quietly, automatically. Most people never notice it. They just feel the frustration. They get motivated. They begin again. They lose momentum. And then they blame themselves. If this pattern feels familiar, stay with me. Because once you see what's actually happening, the cycle stops making sense. Starting over feels productive at first. It feels like movement, a new plan, a new routine, a fresh version of you. But if you zoom out, you'll notice something uncomfortable. You've been here before. Same excitement, same promises, same ending. The problem isn't effort, it's repetition without awareness. And repeating a pattern harder doesn't break it. When progress slows, most people add pressure. They tell themselves, I need to be stricter, I need to push harder, I need to stop being weak. But pressure creates resistance. The nervous system doesn't respond to threats by performing better. It responds by protecting itself. That's why pushing harder often leads to burnout, not results. And burnout makes restarting feel necessary. Here's the part people rarely admit. Starting over feels safe. Beginnings don't demand patience. They don't expose limits. They don't test consistency. Beginnings let you feel like the person who will change, without sitting through the slow, uncertain middle. So restarting becomes comfort disguised as progress. That's why it keeps happening. Every meaningful change has 3 phases. The beginning, exciting. The ending, rewarding. The middle, quiet. The middle is where effort doesn't feel useful yet, where progress doesn't look like progress, where nothing applauds you. This is where most people leave, not because it's hard, but because it feels invisible. And invisibility is uncomfortable. Your brain is wired to prefer novelty. New plans release dopamine. Repetition releases almost nothing. So every restart gives your brain a reward, even if it destroys long-term progress. That's why restarting feels energizing, while consistency feels heavy. Nothing is wrong with you. Your brain is just doing what it evolved to do. Most advice responds to this by telling you to become more intense. Bigger goals, stricter rules, more discipline. But intensity creates dependence. When effort relies on emotion, progress collapses the moment emotion fades. That's why motivation feels powerful and then disappears. Not because it failed you, but because it was never meant to last. People who stop restarting don't become more motivated. They become less emotional about action. Smaller steps, lower friction, less internal debate. They stop asking, can I do everything today? And start asking, what's the smallest action that keeps continuity intact? When action stops being dramatic, restarting loses its grip. This doesn't mean lowering standards. It means separating identity from performance. Missing a day doesn't mean failure. It means interruption. Restarting only happens when a pause feels like proof that you're not capable. When action becomes routine, not identity. One off day doesn't erase everything. Small actions don't need confidence. They don't need motivation. They don't need belief. They only need permission, and permission is easier to give than inspiration. That's why quiet systems outlast emotional surges. Not fast, not impressive, but stable. If you keep starting over, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you were taught to rely on intensity instead of structure. You don't need a fresh start. You need a stable continuation. Quiet, uncelebrated, effective. That's how progress actually happens. Slowly, predictably, still rising,